chopped liver over here?
The Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and your local cable provider presents Cable Reports. Join us now as Cable Reports brings you up to date on current issues facing the Commonwealth through discussions with your local legislators and other policymakers from across Virginia.
From the General Assembly and the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast, connecting Virginians to their government. We're pleased to have two members, one from the House of Delegates, Danny Marshall, good to see you, sir.
Woody, it's always a pleasure.
And Bill Stanley from the State Senate. Good to see you, sir.
Great to see you, Woody. Good morning to you.
I understand that there's an agreement that has been reached in terms of pay increases for state employees, especially the state police. Talk to us about why that's so significant.
Well, you know, when we came back here, we were at a $1.25 billion deficit. Last year, we had made a promise to our state employees and to our sheriffs and to our state police and had put raises in that budget, but they were tied to economic forecasting and hitting certain revenue marks in terms of tax collection. We didn't hit those marks. Instead of being on target, we had a deficit. And so what I think all of us on the Republican side, both the House and the Senate, were determined that despite our governor who just wanted to give a one-time 2% bonus, that we were going to actually raise the pay of our state employees who deserve that kind of raise. So what we've been able to do is come together and find through the budget money enough to, one, give a 2% raise across the board for our state employees. Two, to make sure that the compression raises that we're giving, which is based on years of service for our deputy sheriffs, goes back in the budget, and not only do they get that bonus, but they also get that raise in salary and go from there. And three, a very substantial raise, sometimes in the neighborhood of 18% for our state troopers. That's neat because we're losing state troopers a lot at a greater rate than we're putting them on the force. And so we want to make sure that the quality of our law enforcement is there and that they're paid according to what they do, because they're the ones that keep us safe. So we were happy we were able to put that together. Right now, it does not include a raise for teachers, but I think, you know, one step at a time, I think we'll get to that as well sometime soon.
And I take it a lot of those state troopers, we were losing them to the state of North Carolina, for example.
Well, it was a double hit. You know, not only do we have to pay as a state employee, to train these young men and women all over the state, but then we would lose them to other localities, to other states and whatnot. So this is actually going to save us money in the long run. But as like Senator Stanley said, these young men and women go out and protect us and risk their life and limb for us, and so I think it's the right thing to do. The other thing that I'm glad we are able to do, as opposed to a bonus, if you do a bonus, it is a one-time pay for them, but the way as far as a pay increase, not only it's money today, but it also helps their retirement down the road when the years of service. So it's a real win-win for them.
Now, we were talking about the number of visitors who've been here since the session started. You welcome them all. A lot of unhappy teachers, but of course, even if there is a raise, don't localities have to share part of that burden?
Well, the problem with this, with teachers, is a teacher is actually a local employee. Yes. A state trooper is a state of Virginia employee. So if you looked at last year, I saw from the House of Appropriations that all localities except 12 gave pay raises, and so they are, local employees, and so the locals stepped up to do so.
Sure. New College Institute. Let's talk about why that's important, what's going on there, and how that relates to economic development.
It's very important to Martinsville. Danny and I have the privilege and honor of serving on the board of directors of New College. This year, we decided that we have to take it in a direction that steps up what we're trying to accomplish and create a foundation and a cornerstone really for workforce development and education for their people in our area, so that we'll be attractive to companies not only that are there, that we can create a pipeline but of students that become good workers, but also to attract those companies that may want to relocate or open a business in our area, because they know that we're training and we're educating a high quality workforce, and that comes in many varieties. And I think we've got great community colleges with Danville Community College and Patrick Henry Community College. What we're looking at right now is, rather than competing with them and offering the same things that they're offering, is filling in the gaps. That is, you get a 2-year associate's degree from those institutions. We want to be the +2. We want to actually be singularly focused. And so when we're transforming New College, what we're trying to do is then, instead of offering a la carte menu items for baccalaureate degrees, like as Danny says, nobody's going to get a job from getting a degree in French. I got an English major. I was an English major, so I had to go to law school. There wasn't much for me after that. But specifically being like in the manufacturing area, engineering, cyber, those kind of educational opportunities where the jobs are. I think when we retool that, we're going to find that we're also offering a unique educational experience. We're talking right now about experiential learning, which means when a student comes in and they're taking that engineering or that manufacturing those classes to get that 4-year degree, that they're also given a job, that they go out into the workforce with our corporate partners, and they work for them while they get their degree. So they're earning money while they're getting that degree, and quite frankly, hopefully, that company that they work for is going to have an educated worker who already knows the system from the ground up, and they're going to hire them as soon as they get that baccalaureate degree from us. So we're really excited about where we're going to take New College. Danny has been there since the very beginning, has been such a hard worker on and so dedicated to the task of what New College is and what it will be. So we're looking forward to all the new opportunities that we're going to create for all of Southside Virginia, and especially Martinsville, Henry County, by what we can make New College into.
And Danny, you're going to be discussing this in some detail later today, I understand.
Yes, actually today is Thursday the 26th, and so when this is broadcast back in Martinsville, Henry County, we're actually having a board meeting today for New College here in Richmond. So at our last board meeting back in the fall, we elected Senator Stanley as the new chair of NCI, and he has really been earning his pay. He has worked very, very hard. We have talked to, and Senator Stanley has talked to a number of different could-be partners of New College. But what we're trying to do is to use New College as a 2+2. The 2 is going to be at the community college level. The +2 would be at NCI. Companies are looking for educated, qualified workers. Every area's you got to have land, you got to have the infrastructure, natural gas, all that. That's a given. You got to have that. But what we want to do is to separate us from everybody else, is to have that highly skilled, educated workforce, and we feel like New College is going to do so. So maybe Senator Stanley might want to talk about some of the partners that we have talked to this year.
Absolutely.
We've talked to the University of Virginia, the president, Teresa Sullivan. We've talked to George Mason University, their representatives. We've talked to the president of Old Dominion University. We've talked to Virginia Commonwealth University, VCU, about their biomedical engineering programs and their nanotechnology courses that maybe we can offer there. We've talked to the Center for Advanced Manufacturing, Commonwealth, what we call CCAM. We've talked to Averitt University.
Yes.
We've talked to, I can't remember all the people.
Virginia State.
Virginia State.
Yeah.
And so all of them are excited about what we're trying to do. What they can do is plug into what we're trying to accomplish and bring to our area an educational experience that has never been seen before. What we're also doing is we're reaching out to those corporate partners, whether it be Dominion or Coca-Cola, and asking them to be a part of that experiential learning model that we're trying to create. So that, again, what we're doing is so unique that you can go to a 4-year baccalaureate degree offering institution like UVA, but when you come to New College, it's an experience and it's a mode and method of teaching that is not unlike anything else that we offer in the state. So we continue those discussions. We've got the support of the General Assembly, both in the Senate appropriations through Chris Jones and also through Emmett Hanger, our chair of finance in the Senate. Both are big supporters. Emmett sits on the board as well. And I think the direction we're taking by what we're doing here in Richmond right now is going to be significant and substantial. And in the end, we're going to innovate, motivate, and educate. And we're going to do it with alacrity.
Let me expand. One of our first meetings, actually even before session started, Senator Stanley and I met with Chris Jones, Delegate Chris Jones from Suffolk, who is the chairman of House Appropriations. Very powerful committee. And we also met with members of staff of the House Appropriation. We, told Delegate Jones what we were planning on doing, how we were planning on revamping NCI. He gave us his full endorsement, said that he understands what we're doing and understands that what we're trying to recreate economy back in that part of the state, and so we got his support. So we have been working not only from the college standpoint, but we've been working through a lot of different people to try to make sure that we get all the players to make sure we can move NCI forward.
And there are other initiatives you both are working on. For example, you're still working on the creation of an inland port.
Yeah, what we always trying to do, what I've been, ever since I've been here, is trying to bring prosperity back to our part of the state. We were at one time, one of the most prosperous part of the state in the Commonwealth. And so, no fault of our own, no fault of anybody that, of the workforce in our area. It was something called NAFTA. And when NAFTA passed, Ross Perot said it was going to be this giant sucking sound. Well, you could hear that in our part of the state, that sucking sound. So we're looking for all different bits and pieces of an economic development puzzle. NCI is a piece of the puzzle, big piece of the puzzle, but the Commonwealth Crossing Industrial Park down in Henry County, 1,000 acres of land is a big piece. Over in Pennsylvania County, Berry Hill, 3,500 acres, big piece of the puzzle. But the other piece of the puzzle is, like you said, is a inland port. There's one up in Northern Virginia, and so we are looking to do one in Southside Virginia. We have been working on it for almost a year. We have a memorandum of understanding with people in our area and with the port. So they are on board. So our next step is railroad. There's a site over in Hurt, Virginia, just south of Alta Vista, that is a company in North Carolina called Summit Corporation, owns that. It's about 800 acres of land there. They will donate part of that land for the inland port. The reason it's important, it is right adjacent to the main north-south line for a Norfolk Southern Railroad. If you go 15 miles north from this site, it is right at the switch of the cross tracks of the east-west. So it is a great location, and if you look at what's happened up in Northern Virginia, Front Royal at the other inland port, there have been a lot of different companies have located around that site. And what the inland port does, you see these containers on the back of tractor trailers, they are going to the port. So what they would do here is they'd bring those containers to Hurt, put them on a train and carry them there. So the freight rate's cheaper, the amount of traffic that would be reduced down in that area. The port in Virginia is 55 foot deep. It's the deepest port on the East Coast, and so the amount of traffic that's going in and out of that port is going to be substantially goes up. The site in what we're doing over at Hurt will help that.
Matter of fact, those post-Panamax ships are starting to come through that port now.
They are, and you listen to Danny. Danny's been working on this, and I don't know when he gets to sleep. Do you ever get any rest? Because, and they always say that a politician does not create jobs. We create the environment that allows jobs to flourish. I'm convinced that he creates jobs. I mean, he's a hard worker, and I know no other, and I try to keep up with him as best I can, but this gentleman right here works so hard for the restoration of our economy in Southside, Danville, Martinsville, Henry County, and Pennsylvania County. He's just it's a true testament of what kind of dedication, when you put your nose to the grindstone, what you can accomplish. And so that inland port is going to be a game changer in the same way Interstate 73, new college, workforce training, working together, all those collaborative efforts are going to come together and bear fruit. And we're excited just because we can be on the ground floor as we're doing it. And also we can see the results. And so when we start seeing those shipping containers that you talk about coming off those Panamanian ships that have gone through the canal, and we see them rolling as they're going to the interior United States and they're coming out of our areas, then we know that we're on the right track, that we are progressing in a way that's going to make our economy grow and thrive, not just now in Southside, not just now in Martinsville and Danville, but for generations to come. Because ultimately, I think Danny and I think the same way. For too long, after the jobs went away, when we're growing our children, they have to leave to go find good work and good employment. And so what we're trying to do is, by building this economy generationally as we're starting now, is that when our children grow older, instead of going to visit our children across the state, we're visiting them across the street.
You mentioned I-73, and that's no less an important potential economic driver for your region. Talk to us in a little bit more detail about that. I think you got some additional funding
This
recently.
is Mr. I-73.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Well, thank you for that. That's a nice compliment. We've got great traction now going for the I-73 development
It's about
fund.
20 years old, the concept
The
now?
concept is 20 years old. It's a high priority corridor that was deemed that way by the federal government. Last year I put in a bill that created the Interstate Compact that allows Virginia to work with the other states where I-73 runs through to strategically plan, execute, and fund the construction of the road. That's now become, the federal government has recognized that in their new transportation bill, which was signed by President Barack Obama. So that is now a living, breathing thing where other states are adopting the compact. This year what we're trying to do is create, just like we did with the Route 58 fund, a development fund which will bring a constant stream of money for the construction of Interstate 73. Starts in South Carolina, equidistant to 3 deep water ports in Wilmington, North Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, and Savannah, Georgia. It goes all the way up through the Commonwealth of Virginia, about 96 miles of it, and all the way up to the Canadian border in Michigan. So when we have that together, the Chimera report, which did a study, said we will have in our area 53,000 permanent jobs.
53,000.
Yes, on top of the 13,000 construction jobs that will be needed just to build it. You're talking about $700 to $900 million in local revenue for our localities for public safety and education, teachers' raises. That will happen every year, not to mention the revenue that will generate. It will pay for itself when the state invests in it. It will pay for itself by the revenue generated in 8 years.
8 years.
8 years. It will pay back the state what it took the state to build it. So that's a no-brainer. If you want a jobs program, that's a jobs program. And it will connect us to the global marketplace, and also be, because we've now improved that infrastructure, be the center hub where companies are going to want to come to Martinsville, Henry County, because we're right there from the deep water ports and the deep water port in Virginia, and with Danny's inland port, and they're going to be able to not only bring the products that they need to make their product, but also take their product to market into the interior of the United States and also globally across the world. So we know that when we build I-73, it's going to be, again, part of that game-changing atmosphere for us that's going to put us right back where we were before, which I like to remind people here in Richmond. You know, we built Virginia, Martinsville, Henry County, tobacco, textiles, manufacturing. We were the economic driver. And even though those jobs went away, our pride never did. And we don't need a handout, we just need a hand. But with these things in combination, we know we're coming back, and we're coming back strong.
And of course, Danny, the Tobacco Commission still plays a big role in economic development in your area.
Yeah, I can't say this, enough that, if you see, former Senator Charles Hawkins or either former Delegate Whit Clement, thank them, because they did something that almost no other state did. They set a large chunk aside, and it's not for the whole state. If you go south of us in North Carolina, their Tobacco Commission, they call it the Brightleaf Foundation over there, but it's the whole state of North Carolina. Here in Virginia, it is areas that were tobacco dependent. And so we have so many good projects. One of the things that we're working on is cybersecurity jobs. And the reason we're doing that is because it could be an economic part. The governor, I think, says there's 30,000 unmet jobs in cybersecurity today. The pay for those jobs is $75,000 and above. I mean, that's a home run in our area. But the reason we want to do that is because of something the Tobacco Commission did, 10 years ago. We invested in something called Mid-Atlantic Broadband. And Mid-Atlantic Broadband is put the fiber backbone down throughout Southside Virginia. We have a company in Danville called Noblus that has a supercomputer. Noblus also has a facility in Arlington. Noblus tells me that they can transfer data from Danville to DC cheaper and faster than they can from Arlington across the river.
Wow.
The Mid-Atlantic Broadband has just come up with an agreement with Microsoft. Microsoft is going to put a fiber cable from Virginia Beach to London so that it will tie the U.S. into Europe and the UK, but that will also create additional jobs, additional computer jobs. And so the whole point is that, if we are trying to bring, with the New College Institute, with the Two Community College, with Averett University, is to try to raise the level of education so we have an educated workforce so that our people can, get and maintain high skills, so that brings high incomes to them.
Beer and breweries.
Yes.
You've got a bill.
I do, and actually, excuse me, if you look at the bill that I have now, which I'll explain in just a second, the genesis of that was in 2012, myself and former Senator Jeff McWaters from Virginia Beach crafted a bill that basically said if you were a craft brewery, a small business craft brewery, that you would have the same luxury as, say, a winery in terms of serving without having to have the food minimums 50-50 as we have in the requirements when you serve alcohol. So that allowed tasting rooms for our local breweries. That caused the craft brewery industry in Virginia to explode. As you've seen the expansion, and we've gotten a lot of those craft brewery houses coming and the manufacturers coming to our area, which is really a positive thing for us as well. This now tries to marry up that expanding business, craft brewery, with the farmers in our area. And so my bill, basically, we call it the hops bill. That says that any farmer, simply this, if any farmer grows malt, barley, the wheat, winter wheat or spring wheat, or hops, and hops takes 3 years to grow on a vine. I'm learning all about this. That if they grow that and then sell it to a local craft brewery who operates and does business, hires people in Virginia, then that exchange is tax-free to the farmer. So it's a benefit. Right now, there is less than 1 acre of those ingredients grown in Virginia. We're trying to invigorate a business, agricultural business. Most of it is grown out in the state of Washington. I think 56 million pounds of hops alone. If we can do that, then we can become the Napa Valley of craft beer. And it would help with agritourism. I think it would help our farmers who then could offer a different kind of crop and provide us in a way where we now are growing, producing, and processing this for our local craft beer industry, which is exploded, hiring thousands of people, generating millions of dollars in income. Well, let's help and support our farmer. That's why I put the bill in, and hopefully we'll become the Napa Valley of beer.
That's right down your alley as chairman of agriculture, isn't it?
Yes, it is. In fact, yesterday in the Agriculture, Chesapeake and Natural Resources, I invited a farmer from up in the valley and a professor from James Madison and also one from Virginia Tech, and they spent about an hour talking to us about hemp. And so hemp is as a product that George Washington raised, but currently hemp is, by federal government, is a legal product to transport across lines. And so Congressman Goodlatte hopefully will have a bill in 2017 that will change that. And so it could be a major new crop for our farmers. Not only the crop for the farmers, but also the processing. So there's a lot of different things that hemp could be made into. One of them is they could extract the oil out of the hemp seed for biodiesel, that type things. They could also use the part of it to make clothing. They tell me that in the presentation yesterday that every European and Asian car company is using hemp to make parts for their car. The reason being is hemp is less expensive than even plastic. It weighs less than plastic, and it's also biodegradable. In Europe, cars have to be biodegradable for some crazy reason. What they have to do is a car has to be built so that at its end of its life, it has to be completely biodegradable, so they can take the car apart and so it doesn't go to a junkyard. It can be resurfaced, and so hemp will be able to do that. So again, what we're looking for is different products so that we can add again to the economic mix of our area.
Great. Scholarships for temporary assistance for needy family children.
Yes. That was a bill that we came up with this year because we get block grants, basically a grant from the federal government for that temporary assistance for needy families. Those at and below the poverty level who have children, and basically it helps, make ends meet and also put food on the table for those families. And so it's a very important funding, but a lot of that funding is unused, and it's turned back to the federal government if we don't use it. But part of the federal law, when I read it, permits actually for us to have other uses for that money. So what we're trying to do is make a scholarship program for those kids at or below the poverty level who want to go on and get a college education or come to New College or come to any institution in Virginia and further their education so they can break the cycle of poverty. So use that unused money to those families that receive that TANF assistance and actually create scholarships that will help pay for college or for workforce training, and that will make sure that when that child grows up, they don't become a needy family needing the assistance. They've used the assistance to break the cycle of poverty and to be a great citizen and good taxpayer. I mean, that's, I think, the smartest use of that money. So if we're not using it to put food on the table, we ought to be using it to put kids through college.
Great. Authorizing judges to restore voting rights.
Yeah, voting rights, last year was a big deal, restoration of rights. And so what I talked to 3 of the circuit court judges in my area, and so I researched this about what I would have to do, and so it has to be a constitutional amendment. So I went before committee last week, and my pitch is that would allow the circuit court judges to restore the rights. Now, the person wants the rights restored has to, have paid all the dues,
right,
all the fines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, for example, the way mine would work, if someone was convicted in Richmond but now lives in Martinsville, that person who wants it restored, rights restored, would have to go to the circuit court judge in the area where they live. The reason I did that is I didn't want judge shopping, that
Sure.
that you could have some activist judge. And so there was a long list of constitutional amendments. I was told that there's going to be 3 of them that's going to come through, so hopefully I'm one of the 3.
Great. We're going to give you the last word, Mr. Chairman. Awesome. Local government. Tell us what's going on in your committee this session.
Oh, well, we have some interesting bills coming up that haven't been heard yet. One of the most interesting is the Airbnb. You might hear that there's
Yes.
a platform that now there's an app by having the app you can rent out your home or a room in your home. A lot of times what we're finding is that company is not following local ordinances and regulations. They're flouting the law. Here in Richmond, Richmond doesn't allow short-term rentals of your home, commercial short-term rentals, and so that limitation's there. Well, Airbnb is out there with a Richmond tag, and they're renting those houses and flouting the law. So we need to take care of that shortly.
Great. Hey, thank you for both being here.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bill Stanley, Danny Marshall.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Great.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Woody.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans.
Good save.